Alright guys, I didn't really want to have to get on here and do this, but I had to. These are fiberglass stakes right here. Those big bulky stakes on the back of the truck, wooden stakes. I called 2 weeks ago to get a quote on these fiberglass stakes because we need some more stakes this year. I got a quote, 83 cents. I called the man this morning. I said, hey, I know these tariffs are crazy and everything going on. I said, what can you do me on those fiberglass stakes now if we needed a load? It's a 3-month ETA from time you place the order. He said, Taylor, he said, you don't want to hear this price that I'm about to give you. And I said, well, give it to me anyways. He said, each of those stakes now is going to be $1.74 a piece. And I said, well, you know, and I know both that we can't do that, and that's going to be impossible. So that's just to let you know a little bit of what we're going through out here on our farm and what farmers in general are going through. These tariffs, not the best thing for our country. I voted for Trump.
When China said they don't give a fuck, they meant it. If you haven't heard, China has ended its beef exports from the U.S. Losing those exports is worth $1.6 billion to the U.S. And you want to guess which state exports the most? Nebraska. And they have a $400 million budget short, which means the Nebraskan ranchers are not going to be able to get a subsidy from the state because they're already $400 million short. China took that beef exports right over to Australia. And China didn't stop there. They are also reducing their soybean exports by 9.5%, or almost $5 billion. And Indiana is going to feel that pain, seeing that they export $2.6 billion, or 60% of their soybean crops, to China. And China is going to subsidize that through Brazil. So that means we are losing again. Have you noticed that they are targeting red states? That seems pretty strategic if you ask me. Targeting red states.
Farmers are about to get hit with some very difficult times, and according to an article I just read, it's because of Donald Trump's tariffs. Or is it? It's not. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump's tariffs. Tariffs are making America great again, and unfortunately there's a reoccurring trend with farmers where they're always needing some sort of government assistance. In 2020, $2.2 trillion was given to farmers by the Biden-Harris administration. In 2022, guess what happened? 48,000 farmers needed more government assistance. So now, fast forward to today, 2025, the government needs to help out farmers. Guess who's going to be to blame? Donald Trump. Doesn't make any sense. You know what other president actually had to help out farmers financially? Clinton, Bush, Obama, Biden, Trump, twice. This is going to be a second time. If anyone's actually helping the farmers, it's Donald Trump. It's MAGA. We're truly making America great again. Trust me, guys. Trust the process. There's a reason why 7 out of 7 swing states voted for Donald Trump. He knows what he's doing, and obviously the Democrats don't.
My concern is I'm here talking to Pennsylvania farmers, and they're a crop away from bankruptcy. They're a crop away from losing their farms. And we know from the first time around when President Trump put really modest tariffs compared to this on our farmers, they lost $27 billion. Farms had to shut down. I'm worried that they're going to be harmed again, that the impact is going to be devastation for Pennsylvania farmers. That's what I'm concerned about. That's why we're going to do everything at the state level we can to invest in our farmers, as opposed to taking market share and money away from them, as the Trump administration is doing. I'm not sure why the Trump administration is looking to screw over our farmers. We have their backs and we're going to protect them.
Did y'all hear what Maine's farmers did last week? Suffice it to say, they are pissed and they are not taking what the Trump regime is doing lying down. Here's a little clip from in front of the Maine State House in Augusta, Maine on April 16th. Kevin Miller from Maine Public Radio covered the event. The title of his article is Maine Farmers Call on USDA to Restore Funds and Staff. Farmers rallied in Augusta Wednesday to protest funding cuts, contract suspensions, and staff layoffs at the USDA that they say threaten the livelihood of Maine's small farms. The event came just days after the Trump administration regime canceled another program that was slated to provide millions of dollars to help make Maine farms more resilient to the changing climate. Now, I reported on this quite a while ago. Conservative farmers all across America are facing the loss of grants and funding that were not necessarily coming from places that you would expect from the Department of Energy, for example. all kinds of grants that help make their farms more resilient, more environmentally responsible, and provided lots of funding for infrastructure and operations that they really need. And they didn't think that when Trump talked about gutting the federal government, that he was going to cut off the funding to them. And farmers all across this country, especially small farms, are hurting really bad as a result. And we could talk about how that's part of Trump's plan to put small family farms out of business so they sell their land to mega corporations, because that absolutely is part of the plan. But I want to get back to the article here. The rally began with a rare sight, at least for Augusta. More than a dozen tractors of all sizes, ages, plus other farm vehicles were rumbling down the streets surrounding the Maine State House. Rally goers then gathered outside of the building to hear from farmers upset about the recent changes as part of President Trump's cost-cutting and reprioritizing. We don't need to add more reasons why farmers don't make it, said Seth Yentes of North Branch Farm, an organic beef and produce operation in Monroe. Our government needs to stop supporting billionaires and start supporting farmers. The event was led by the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. MAFGA Executive Director Sarah Alexander said Maine has lost $4 million to purchase food from local farms for schools and for food banks. I talked about this at length when this story broke several weeks ago, but a lot of my work is around resilient local food economies, and I was absolutely devastated when Trump cut off funding for programs that took our tax dollars and used it to buy food from local folks right in our community, small family farms. Take that produce, take that food to the schools and cook the meals, local, nutritious, healthy, organic meals fed to America's school children. We need more of those kinds of programs. That is the kind of stuff our tax dollars should be funding. If we have hungry children who need to be fed, and that is an obligation that we have as a society, why not use those taxpayer dollars and support small family farms and give those kids a rich, varied, nutritious diet? And those programs are just like a tiny, tiny little drop in the federal budget. But what a huge impact it had in the lives of small family farms and of hungry school children. Those have all been cut so that more money can go straight into the pockets of Elon Musk. More of our taxpayer money. Our taxpayer money. That is our money. It is meant to serve the public good. And now it is all going to billionaires. Okay, back to the article. Alexander also said the Trump regime is holding up to $12 million worth of contracts that have already been approved by the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service. The cuts to USDA staff in every Maine county have been at least 20% of the workforce, Alexander said, eliciting boos from the crowd. This is not okay. Some funding was frozen but later released, and other contracts appear to have been paused, but they're not yet officially canceled. But earlier this week, the USDA did cancel a grant program to encourage more climate-friendly farming techniques. God forbid we make our farms more resilient. Maine projects were slated to receive $3 million from the Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities program. The Trump administration dubbed it a, quote, Biden-era climate slush fund that spent far too much overhead, although the USDA said some grant recipients may still receive money if enough money is slated to go to farmers. It wasn't a slush fund. And $3 million, I know that seems like a lot to you or me, but when it comes to the federal budget, that's absolutely nothing. And it would have had real substantive impacts in the lives of the people who grow our food. I'm sorry, I'm getting angry about it, but fucking with our farmers and with hungry children so that billionaires can get richer, that's something that we should all get angry about. I'm going to read you a quote here. It's from Brooke Rollins, who is the USDA secretary. Keep in mind, she's the same person who said if eggs are so expensive, we should just all start keeping chickens. Wouldn't that be great? Every American can just get chickens. All of the millions, hundreds of millions of people who live in apartments. We shouldn't complain about egg prices being sky high. We should all just start keeping chickens. Speaking as somebody who has kept chickens and ducks for many, many years, that was an unbelievably insensitive and stupid thing to say. So with that in mind, let's listen to what the USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins has to say. The Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities initiative was largely built to advance the Green New Scam at the benefit of NGOs, not American farmers. That's patently false. She went on to say the concerns of farmers took a back seat during the Biden administration. Again, outright lie. During my short time as secretary, I have heard directly from our farmers that many of the USDA partnerships are overburdened by red tape, have ambiguous goals, and require complex reporting that pushes farmers into the sidelines. We are correcting these mistakes by what? Taking away the funding and giving it to billionaires? We are redirecting our efforts to set up farmers for an unprecedented era of prosperity. You mean drive them out of business so they have to sell their small family farms to big ag? That's who you want to have unprecedented prosperity. Giant mega corporations, the super rich. I'm sorry, Brooke Rollins, you're full of shit. All right. But Alyssa Adkins of Farthest Field Farm in Freeport said USDA grants like the Smart Climate Program helped her and her partner start to build a farm better able to weather Maine's changing climate. The Climate Smart Commodities Grant was a lifesaver in this respect, Adkins said. It helped with these crucial supplies in our second growing season, and we had been counting on it in our third and beyond, especially as we lost our off-farm income. A lot of America's small family farms, they have to work off-farm in order to keep their farms going, especially as they're really building their business. And yet we're seeing workers losing their jobs all over the place, and we should be aware of how many people are losing income that they needed to keep their farm going so that they could grow food to feed their community. Just yesterday, our so-called president made a statement that America will take care of its farmers. How? And help those affected by his ridiculous, poorly managed tariff war, said Steve Sinisi, who runs Old Crow Ranch, a livestock farm in Durham. Funny how taxpayers can bail out large monocrop FAFO corporate farms that already receive subsidies, but as small farmers of America, we have to fight our own government to get the funding already approved by Congress for programs that have been around and used efficiently for decades. This is a really important point here. Congress has already allocated those funds. Trump not paying money that Congress has already allocated, that's illegal. He is violating the separation of powers, usurping the authority of Congress to allocate funds. Later in the program, Sinisi presented Democratic Congresswoman Shelley Pingree with a 5-gallon bucket containing hog manure, although he used a different word than manure. I told Ms. Pingree, when she's ready, I'm ready. The spreaders go to Washington. Pingree, an organic farmer who sits on the House Agriculture Committee, has herself joked about inviting farmers to dump manure on the steps of the U.S. Capitol in response to the changes at the USDA. That's something that French farmers do when they're pissed off about their funding being cut. She laughed about the symbolic gift of the 5-gallon bucket of manure before launching into her own criticism of Trump, his tariffs, Doge, and the recent cuts. Pingree asked, what's wrong with this administration? To say they believe in family farms, that they believe in the process and what we've got going on here, but then to break these contracts? The other 3 members of Maine's congressional delegation, Democratic Rep. Jared Golden, although he doesn't know how to hold the line and repeatedly votes with Republicans, Republican Senator Susan Collins, who acts like a moderate and that she's unhappy with the things Trump is doing, but then she votes in line with all of his reprehensible policies, and Independent Senator Angus King, have all criticized cuts to the USDA programs in Maine. Cool, Susan Collins, if you are so opposed to what Trump is doing to your state, to the farmers in your state, why do you repeatedly vote in line with him, with what he wants? Why don't you break away and do what's right by your state, by the Constitution? You can say you don't like the funding cuts, but then you vote for them. You voted to approve Brooke Rollins as the USDA secretary. So are you for Mainers or are you a maggot? Are you for your state? Are you for the Constitution? Are you for farmers? Are you for democracy? Because from your voting record, it looks like you're a collaborator with fascism, and you are voting to take away the funding for small farmers in your state. You are voting to undermine democracy and to cost farmers in Maine their jobs. So what's it going to be, Susan Collins? And to all the farmers in Maine and anywhere else, you should be taking your Republican reps to task. They are destroying America's family farms so that billionaires can get rich. That's it. It's as simple as that.
Farmers who voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump state they now face financial ruin because of Donald Trump and his tariffs and are asking for a bailout using our tax dollars. To that I say, no. This is absolutely ridiculous. I know you guys understand how to grow corn and shit, but maybe you should have spent a little more time growing a fucking brain, because this is exactly what happened last time. He put tariffs on China, the farmers got hurt, and they needed a bailout. And that here you guys are again with amnesia, voting for him again. There's that one soybean farmer you may have seen. He's like, I voted for Donald Trump 3 times because of his policies, but I need him to stop this right now because it's hurting us. Yeah. Do you not, fool me once? Shame on you. I don't know what to say to these people. It's like they have just Like I said, amnesia. They have short-term memory loss because they cannot remember that Donald Trump took them to the brink last time. And this time it's even worse. He's putting these tariffs just blanket style. And places like China are cutting off American agricultural products. And it's going to crush soybean farmers, people who grow corn. Like, that's a huge thing for where I'm from in Indiana, corn and soybean. That's what our state relies on. That's a huge agricultural crop for us. And farmers in Indiana, I'm sure, overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. And now you want to look to the government? You want to look to socialism and government handouts to bail you out? Like, I don't understand, farmers. You want to get down on everybody else needing services, asking for services to help them live their daily lives. And then you're going to look to the government again in less than 7 years for another bailout? Another bailout? Like, damn, how many chances do you need? If it's not working, you need to close business. That's called capitalism, right? Isn't that what you guys freedom-loving guys love? Is capitalism? If you can't survive on your own, it's not capitalism anymore. Why are we having to subsidize all of your farms all the time? After you voted for it, you fucked around. You need to find out. You can't keep putting your hand on the stove, wondering why you got burned, and then asking the people to give you the ointment and the bandages. That's not how it works. You sold us all down the river, so jump on the boat and join us, because I don't feel like helping you out. Is it going to have a huge impact if farms go under? Yeah, I understand that. Same thing with the auto industry, why they had to be bailed out. I get it. The travel industry, airlines, things like that. But damn, guys, like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, right? Isn't that the theory? Isn't that your motto? Pull yourself up by the bootstraps? Where are you, farmers? You're supposed to be all country strong. Get your shit together. Quit voting for Donald Trump like a bunch of dumb fuck chuckleheads. God damn it. What is your problem?
2025, American farmers are reeling from a perfect storm of challenges. Extreme weather, fueled by climate crisis, has devastated crops. Like in Texas, farmers there's a farmer called Travis Johnson, who lost over 1,000 acres of cotton, sorghum, and corn to the rainfall falling in just 48 hours. Across the Midwest, flooding and drought have slashed fields. We've all seen all the effects of climate change, where many of the American field have been flooded, you know. So this is one of them, Travis Johnson. So when he was interviewed, actually, these are actual quote, would say, "It's heartbreaking. You work all year and then a year's worth of rain wipes out in just 2 days. You know, we are just not losing crops, we are losing our livelihoods." And we also, even many of these Americans farmers, then the economic pressures are compounding the pain. Commodity prices are violated, input costs like fertilizer and equipment are historic high, and farm debt is soaring. So since 2018, the US has lost over 150,000 farms, with small and mid-sized operation hit hardest. Farm bankruptcies are trending upward, particularly in states like Lower and Wisconsin. We also that many of the farmers, they are filing for bankruptcy. Then you know, when there's an interview with Jonathan Cobbs, an agriculture economist, who said that farmers are grappling with double layer of uncertainty, volatile markets, and a predictable policies shift. These, when we figure out economic pressures, these Trump tariffs and so on, they are really impacting many farmers. For example, the policy of Trump's administration, particularly its second term, which was started in 2025, has intensified farmer struggles. A key issue is the rekindled trade war with China and other nations. Trump tariffs on steel, aluminium, and other goods have prompted the territorial tariffs on USA. Agricultural exports like soybeans, corns, and pork. China, the US third largest agricultural market, has slashed purchases, turning to Brazil and Argentina instead. So we all seen where many of like soybeans farmers are crying out loud. They are lamenting that most of their products are being exported to China. Most of their products are experience high tariffs, and which is making them even harder to export. Now China is shifting its focus to Brazil. We have all seen where most of China's products are being sourced from. It's Brazil and Argentina, and it's affecting everyday US farmer who is about to go bankrupt. So there was an Indian soybeans farmer who said they have lost over 40% of export market to China. That we've lost 40% of our export market to China during first term. Now with the new tariff, it's happening again. We can't compete when market vanishes overnight. So during the first term Trump's regime, there are issues where the current farmers they are experiencing. Now they're lamenting that now that Trump has returned to the Oval Office for the second term, things are still escalating. Additionally, Trump's executive orders have frozen or cancelled billions in USDA funding, include 20 billion for conservation programs under the Inflation Reduction Act. This program helped farmers adopt sustainable practices and improve soil health. And the funding. Now we all saw those farmers who paraded actually their farm equipments, in the street to actually kind of demonstrate, to air out their views. So the sudden funding freeze has left farmers like Skylar Holden in Missouri waiting for the promised payment, unable to refinance loan or plan for the future. And we also, many of the Americans now, they're trying to react. They're saying that we don't depend us on the bailouts because our tax money will not be responsible for that. And the main reason these guys are suffering or are experiencing this is because they voted for the current administration. So that's what many of the Americans are now telling these farmers. Massive layoffs at USD field offices with over 10% of staff taking buyouts and thousands of probationary employees let go has also crippled support for rural communities. These offices provided critical technical assistance for pest control, conservation, and disaster aid. So we all know when Trump, the whole thing about Trump is like cutting federal funding. So these people voted for Donald Trump with the aim, or they were thinking that maybe it will not affect them. And hell no. In the F.A.F.O moment, you're all finding out, because these are some of the federal funding organizations that you guys voted to be cut off. Now it's time for the farmers. But let's not be happy, because food is the basket. Food is the main basket. Food is the main ingredients to our daily life. Is the fuel that makes you wake up in the morning. Without food you can't. I think some of people you depend on processed food, but a green, like the food from the farm, is the fuel, is the epitome of everything daily life. Federal funds are cut out. It means that many of these people are actually not gonna receive their aids. The struggle of American farmers are not new. So in 1930s, there was a Dust Bowl and Great Depression that devastated many of the rural American. It led to overproduction and falling prices, which led to widespread foreclosures. So now the New Deal responded with the price support and supply management, stabilizing incomes and enabling farmers to thrive. So I think the year was 1980. There's another crisis. So high interest rates and strong dollar crushed export markets, triggered a wave of bankruptcies. Farmers organized protests and Congress passed the 1985 Farm Bill, which expanded subsidies and crop insurance. So these safety nets helped farmers weather economic storm, but they often favored large operation, leaving small farm vulnerable. Large farms, they go for higher funding, to sustain their operation. But what about these small farmers? It means that they will be left in a limbo. By the 2000s, corporation consolidation became a growing threat. So today, just 4 farms control 2/3 of hog slaughter. A similar trends dominate other sectors. This squeezes farmers with higher input costs and lower prices at the farm gate. Yeah, now you see all these. It means that when there's a higher farm input prices, it means the higher production cost, and what it must result to the same effort. GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you put in must result in what you produce out. So you guys input a lot of production, a lot of money in the production, but what happened? There were low prices of our commodities. So we all know this doesn't continuous. It doesn't go. When people say, when you are put down, find a way to get out. So we want to see how, like, these US farmers will maneuver out. How are they gonna emerge victorious at the end of these war, at the end of all these problems? So historically, farmers have overcome challenges through innovations and collective actions. Like in the 1930s, corporations like the Wisconsin Farmers Union helped secure better prices and access to the markets. In recent decades, some farmers have turned to sustainable practices like cover crop and organic farming to reduce the cost and improve resilience. And I think the other thing is cast the vote that is going to help you. Yeah, is it right? Is that right? So there's a farmer called Jerry who said actually joining cooperatives saved them. They shared resources, they negotiated for better prices and learned from each other. So it was all not about just survival, but for a community, the sense of belongingness. So these things, when all the farmers speak out, like they are speaking out, it results to a change. Yeah, a change is seen, and their problem might come to an end. We also, like in 2021 to 2025, the Biden administration invested about 3.1 billion in climate smart agriculture and 500 million in local meat processing grants to counter consolidations. The USDA's product of the USA labeling rule empowered farmers to compete with international cooperation. So all these who are under USDA's, they aid a common labeling, a product of the USA. This helped to increase the competition in outside markets. Now, you see, you're increasing competitions, but now there are tariffs. But voila, because I think I've seen like the probability of reduction in export in tariffs was, it means that many farmers shall be rescued. But the problem is now, these people, after you guys have affected them, have you guys shown that you guys are not dependable? They have shifted their focus to other markets, because I think they are saying that it's not dependable. Now, these policies boosted net farm income to an upward trend of 165 billion annually, far surpassing the 94 billion average under Trump's first term. Farmers are problem solvers, by diversifying, collaborating, and advocating. They can weather the storm, but they need policies to stabilize the thrive, So the road ahead is tough, but history shows when farmers are put down, shows farmers are resilient. By drawing on past lessons and embracing innovation, they can maneuver through uncertain and build sustainable future. American farmers have faced crises before and emerged stronger. Today's challenge, climate change, trade wars, and policies upheaval are daunting, but so is the spirit of those who fed the nation with grit, community, and smart strategies. Farmers can not only survive but lead the way towards more resilient food system. So it's high time, you farmers, as you were all speaking, when you see the problem that is affecting you, you guys need to speak out. How are you guys gonna speak out? Is delivering or casting a better vote. I cannot say the Trump's administration is bad. I cannot say Biden administration was good, or the vice versa. But if you feel there's something that is pinching you, look and try to correct that thing that is causing discomfort, and that discomfort is doing the right thing at the right time. So thank you for watching. Please consider giving like, a comment, and share your thought. And our all thoughts and prayers goes to all these American farmers. We care for you and we are rooting for you. Adios.